Welcome back for this final segment of training camp tonight. Well, as you can tell, one of the major storylines surrounding this team came after head coach Vic Fangio confirmed that this team will not be going live at any point throughout training camp. Ryan Edwards and Benjamin Allbright of KOA Radio discuss how the offense might struggle because they will not be experiencing any of those live reps and what the offense may look to accomplish this Friday for their final stadium practice at 7:30.
All right, thanks, Alexis. Ben, I thought it would be good to talk today as we're kind of nearing the end of training camp about how difficult it is really for the offense to get into rhythm without preseason games. We noticed it out there, a lot of switching on the offensive side of the ball. We stumbled on this conversation a little bit on Broncos Country tonight, the radio show, as we were talking about how, well, defensively, you got guys rotating in and out all the time, but for the offense, oftentimes in training camp and in practices, you have the first team offensive line, first team quarterback, usually first team receivers, and then they'll run a few plays in whatever scenario the coach is building. The second team goes in, it's a completely different offensive line, completely different quarterback, sometimes completely different receivers. It seems like it's a little bit more difficult for rhythm to be kind of built or momentum being built on the offensive side of the ball during training camp.
Yeah, you do kind of see that. It is a bit, I don't want to say disjointed exactly because they know what they're doing in practice, but at the same time, so much of offense is built on that tempo and that rhythm and kind of getting in the groove, as it were, with your guys and moving the ball down the field and kind of feeling the flow of the game. And you don't have that with these practices. And really it's kind of a disservice because you don't have any preseason games to be able to do that with. So,
right.
I do think that there's definitely something to that, a component to that. I think teams that are retaining most of their offensive staff from the last year and most of their offensive players are going to be an advantage early in the season because they're going to have that continuity. They're going to have that familiarity and that rhythm. They don't really have to build too much of it back up. And oh, by the way, they're going to be super familiar with the playbook. Install is going to be a lot easier than it is with, for instance, the Broncos who are installing a new offense.
So they're going to have a practice again at the stadium. The last practice didn't go so well for the offense. Defense really dominated. They ran some scenarios, but they didn't really run a scrimmage. Do you think that needs to kind of be a focal point for this next stadium practice?
Yeah, I think you need to run one half of an actual game in this practice. I think you do. I think you need to get these guys ready for an understanding and feeling the flow of the game. And not just the players, coaches too. You got to be able to get those play calls in. This is, again, a new offensive coordinator. Getting the play calls in is going to be a different process than it was last year with Rich Cangarello and T.C. McCartney. So you're going to have to figure out all those little things that get lost, that get touched up in the preseason games. You're going to have to figure out a way to replicate that and get the offense on the same page, getting ready to go in against a tough opening day matchup against the Titans.
Because it feels like you've run the amount of scenarios you could possibly run at this point. Whatever scenarios, red zone, midfield, 2 minutes left on the clock, 2-minute drill, all those things. It feels like you've run all of those things that you could possibly run in training camp. Now it's kind of about developing the ebb and flow of a game, which of course you don't get during preseason without preseason play. And for me, you also are missing the scrimmages that you had when other teams came in to camp. You're missing those opportunities as well. So does that mean for you that we just automatically assume most teams will have a bit of a slow start on the offense, or do you lean, as you mentioned, a little bit more to the teams that had established coaching staffs and returning veterans?
Well, offenses tend to click more quickly than defenses. You can look back at the last lockout year and you can see that defensive metrics across the NFL were down for the first 6 weeks of the season just because it took them a while to kind of gel and get back to where they needed to be. That said, yes, teams that have a continuity there at offense, have the same offensive coordinator, have the same quarterback, most of the same skill position players, they're going to have a sense of continuity there. It's going to be a little bit easier for those guys, maybe have a little early season advantage in being able to do that. I think that the Denver Broncos, you're in a unique situation. You got a new quarterback. I mean, he did get 5 games last year, but he's basically new. You got a new offensive coordinator, new quarterback coach. One of your 3 starting receivers is new. You've got a new offensive lineman. You got a new running back. There's a lot of new on this and a lot of young guys, and so it's going to be interesting to see how quickly they can tie that together and get into a well-oiled machine of being a great NFL offense.
But what we talked about quite a bit on the show was what Pat Shurmur can do to help Drew Lock get into rhythm, what he can do to help out the receivers, the young receivers get into rhythm. And we talked about it many times with Demaryius Thomas in his career. Early on, he was a rhythm receiver. You wanted to get him to some short, quick passes to get him going. Courtland Sutton kind of might be a little bit like that too. But I really feel like Jerry Jeudy has shown us during training camp that he kind of needs a little bit of that. He needs a little bit of the, hey, give me some stuff underneath. Let me create, and that's just going to build my confidence.
Well, that builds a quarterback's confidence too. If you got easy, quick, get the ball out of my hands kind of high percentage throws, That builds something. And first downs build confidence. Every time you get a first down, you're a little more confident you're going to get to that end zone.
But one of the things I don't want to see is if the run game isn't working, they have nothing else to lean on. And that's one of my, I think, concerns for this offense early on is it's like, oh, well, we'll just establish the run. It'll be Melvin Gordon. It'll be Phillip Lindsay, maybe a little Royce Freeman mixed in there. But then you kind of have to realize other teams know that about you. They know that about young quarterbacks. They know that about the Pat Shurmur offense. What else can you bring even early in the season when teams are going to try to shut down the one thing you know they're going to try to do?
You need to take deep shots early. You need to reestablish that this team has the capability and the desire to go vertical. So you need to take some deep shots early in order to make that happen, in order to threaten that. You can't allow a team to just camp those safeties down in the box already at the beginning of the game. That's going to take away the run game. That's going to take away all the other things you want to do. Back them out of the box early. But, I don't want to say put Tim and Judy and Cortland and Noah, put them on all a fly pattern, all four verts. But, hey, I mean, you want to see some stuff early that says, hey, we're willing to challenge down the field. A component that was missing last year won't be missing this year. I am for a play-action, vertical shot, first play of the season. I'm here for all of it. Let's establish the tone early. Throw it deep. Make them have to defend that. Make them remember that the Denver Broncos, are going to be throwing the football down the field this year.
Okay. For more coverage, of course, go to BroncosCountryTonight.com. Listen to us on KOA News Radio from 7 to 11. Now, back to you, Alexis.
Well, unfortunately, that is all the time we have for this edition of Training Camp Tonight, and we will not be back here tomorrow night. However, I still recommend that you tune in to KTVD Channel 20 at 6 o'clock for the final installment of the Trilogy. Super Bowl 50 airs on Thursday night, and you know you want to relive Von Miller absolutely dominated Cam Newton en route to his Super Bowl 50 MVP title. Also, be sure to stream Training Camp Live tomorrow morning at 9:15. Steve Atwater will be joined by former Broncos linebacker Steve Foley. And as always, you can head to denverbroncos.com or our social channels for even more from the UC Health Training Center. Thank you so much for watching Training Camp Tonight, powered by Ford.